We've caught up a few times, but it seems
Yep.
like it's getting more and more real by the hour. How are you feeling?
Tired. This work is killing me right now. I'm not used to this. I should be on my couch right now with my feet up watching sports or something, highlights or something. But no, I'm excited. I know the guys are. I think they're anxious. They're tired of, 3, 4, 5 practices in a row, and I'm anxious to get going. It's almost like it's not going to happen. It's not true. If somebody pinch me, it's a dream, but I can't wait.
Well, speaking of being tired, how have you been feeling after that preseason game? You mentioned a lot of guys. That's their first experience last week
Yeah.
Wednesday to playing hockey. Now you get a couple practices and some conditioning working in there. And for yourself, jumping in there and skating around, I mean, I'd imagine a lot of progression making waves in that realm.
Well, my game's gotten a lot better. I know that, but no, it's good. It's been good for these guys to get to know each other a little better too. I know we've been practicing a lot and even up in, having some skates here and there. But after the game, I think it was perfect timing for them to have a game like that because now they know what a little bit of what the pace is like and what type of players these young guys are going to be facing. So um, we touched on a lot of things and we pumped a lot of things in that heads of theirs. But like I always say, everything we told you, forget about it and just go play some hockey.
Mario Terabasi, I see your hand is raised and you are active.
Yeah, coach. From last week's scrimmage, like what do you take away from that, knowing that it was the first action for a lot of those guys to actually be in a game where they're not playing against their own teammates?
Well, I think too, you go into a game like that and you're hoping these guys just click right away and you blow the other team away. But I knew uh, the type of players we had, how young they were. It's been a while for them that had a game, so I didn't have hopes on that happening. So the thing I take away from it is that we need to work on some certain things and get these guys and teach these guys some good habits. And I think we did a good job this week teaching them with our skill development and everything. And I'm looking forward to that first game.
Jay Taft, I see your hand is raised. Your line is active.
Hey, Coach. I know again it's only been a couple days. Do you got any idea of what your style of play, or what your strengths and weaknesses are going to look like when you hit the ice?
Well, I think our strengths are going to be, and to be honest, I think our strengths going to be on the back end. I like our goalie situation. Our forwards, I think, are just a little young and naive. I don't think they know what's going to hit them until that first game when the game is really on the line. Um, I'm trying to be optimistic about it, but I'm also going to be have a lot of patience and not get overly revved up because they're making mistakes. I think the back end's our strong point. We have a lot of young forwards, guys that have never played at this level before, besides that exhibition game, and some of them didn't even play in that. So um, it's going to be a process, which I'm looking forward to see these guys develop as the year goes on. But the first couple games, I think, are going to be a little eye opener for some people.
And do you adjust your style of play then with, like, for example, with all the young forwards, do you kind of guard them a little bit, or do you
Um,
just?
well, you try to put them with guys that maybe were here last year or have been in the league a little bit, but we don't have that luxury. So I can't really protect them. You've seen it around here over the years where you can put him on a line with two vets and you protect a kid and he does fine. But this is you're going to learn on hand job, learning right now. You're going to figure it out and you got to figure it out quick. But which isn't a bad thing. But here you go, pro hockey. It's a good league, and they're going to have to figure out that how to survive.
Thanks, Coach.
Brandon Kane, I see your hand is up. Your line is active.
Hey, Derek. Saw that Auburn had been out of unfit to play. Everyone else healthy as well?
Everybody's healthy. No issues here. Everybody was up and on the ice today, and Everything's good. We have a lot of bodies. I've explained it to them. There'd be 3 or 4 guys out of lineup, and then 3 or 4 more guys out of lineup, or 2 guys out of lineup, and what have you. It is what it is. I think these kids they're okay with it because they're just here. They're on the ice skating. They're on the ice, maybe getting the games, and it's not an easy job as a coach or staff to always redo your lineup, but like I said, under the circumstances, they'll deal with it. We'll deal with it, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of these kids how they play in this league.
And then what's your leadership going to look like this year with captains and assistants?
Well, we were just talking about that. We haven't made a decision yet. Obviously, it's pretty. I mean, on paper, you can see the France and the Mitchell. A guy like maybe Quinville have an opportunity to have a letter on, but we'll talk about it more tomorrow or after this these Zoom calls, and we'll get it down to somebody. But those are kind of your top 3. A lot of these other kids are just young, and some of the other kids that maybe have been in Europe that are a couple of years older, I don't know them well enough to see if they're leadership quality. But I think we got it covered, though. If we do go with those 3, we'll be fine in that department.
Scott Leber, your hand is up and your line is active, sir.
Hi, Coach. Can you give us a name or two of maybe one of the young guys who's really kind of stood out in camp, whether it's their skating ability, their skills, the energy they brought? Can you toss out a name or two of somebody?
Yeah, well, on the back end, Krutel, however you want to pronounce it, and Regula, those guys have really, you can see the difference in just the skill set, the mindset. I think they're going to be good pros, whether it's a year or 2 from now down the road. I think they're going to play in the NHL. I could go through every player, but up front, I'm looking at my board here. Tepley's, he's got some sick hands and he can play the game. He's just got to get used to the pace. The kid that stands out for me, and usually, your Russians are quiet in that, but we call him Andy, Alti Barmakian, he's quite a personality. He's a character and he's got some skill. And I think those guys right there, just as this season goes on, you're going to see some good things from them.
And on the opposite side with the veteran in France, and does he still have everything he had the last time he was here?
Yeah,
he's our defenseman of the year.
His game hasn't changed. He's a smart hockey player. He's not lightning fast, but he's so smart and he's so good position. He's going to be an extra coach for us. He's going to do a great job. And then the other kid up front too, I forgot to mention, is Barrett. Again, not the fastest kid, but he's a player. He can play the game right. He doesn't cheat it. He works hard in practice, and he's that kid. You don't know how he does it, but he's going to be on that score sheet every night.
Thank you, Scott. Jim Haggerty, I see your hand is up and your line is active.
All right. Can you hear me, Coach?
Yep, I got you.
All right, good. With COVID-19, this may have been answered last week if I wasn't on the call. But with COVID-19, we saw like 5 Blackhawks were out about the last week. Does that mean guys here in Rockford are going to have to really be ready to get called up at any time? And should we be prepared to see guys, a lot of guys, maybe more guys than normal, but be called up?
Yeah, I mean, they have to. We have to have these guys ready. But, hopefully they don't have any problems with the, fit to play stuff and they just stay healthy. But, in a perfect world, that would be great. Will it happen again? I'm sure every team is going to go through it. And the guys that we have down here, a couple of them may have to go up and at least fill spots at that the taxi squad. And then from the taxi squad, they'll pick off the guys. But we got to make sure our guys are ready. And, and that goes to when we were down watching training camp, we were always in some of the Zoom meetings about, structure and how the way their systems are. So we're kind of copying their book, and we'll have our guys obviously learn it, but they'll be ready to go if they get called up.
Thank you, Jim. Jay Taft, I see your hand is up. Your line is active.
Coach, you mentioned goalies. Can you give us something real quick on why you're high on this goalie group?
Well, we're all over the map with them. Tomer's been around a bit now. I think he's done a hell of a job, and he's deserved that start. You got a couple young kids that have worked hard in the camps, and I think they're ready to make that next step. And then you got Scotty Darling, who's obviously a proven goalie. He's got a cup. He's a veteran type leader guy, and so we have a bunch of all different types here where I think they're all going to blend well together. So they're all going to help each other out, become better.
Have you figured out where Darling's going to fit into the mix? Like how often he's going to be in that?
Well, that just we've talked about it. I've talked about it with Pete and a little bit with Mark Bernard, but it's Tomer's show. He's earned it. Scotty knows that, and the other two goalie know it also. But obviously, we'd love to get everybody in the games, but we're just gonna, he'll get in games. It's just when and where we're gonna put him in. And same with the other kids too.
Thank you, Jay. Brandon Kane, sorry, your line is active.
Hey, Derek, what specifically have you seen from Evan Barrett that's changed from, I guess, the last time that you had a prospect camp or saw him in action?
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, well, I think it's just his pace of play has gotten a lot better. He's been working on his skating. I see he plays with a little edge just from watching that exhibition game. I just saw that he plays with more edge than I thought he would. And I think his first couple of strides have gotten better. So he's got good hands. He can score goals. He can shoot a puck. He knows where to go hockey-wise. But it was a couple of things where I didn't know about him. And that was playing with a little edge and then his first couple of strides. But they have gotten better.
So you've got a couple other guys on ATOs and PTOs with Krudel and Phillips, Goldberg. What have you seen from those guys?
Well, they just, they're raw, right? They're young kids. They're, adapting to, even just practicing at this pace, the scheduling, it's almost unfair for them because it's not real normal, right? It's not the way we usually do things. There's life, you come to practice, you leave the rink, you can go to the movies, you can go do that. It's like but now it's like, you get your test, you pass your test, you're not positive, you practice, you kind of stay around the rink, and then you go right back to your room and try to stay in your own little bubble. So it's kind of hard for them, but they're big, they're strong, the kids can skate, they can move. I think they're just a little raw on position-wise and how this pace is.
Scott Lever, I see your hand is up. Your line is active.
Coach, with no fans allowed at the games, is it a concern at all for you of the energy level of your guys? Like the guys not being able to feed off the energy of a crowd there? Is keeping their energy level up a concern of yours?
I think it's going to be a little different. It's a little bit of a concern, but we're going to have to find ways to, get that energy within our team. And I think we got young enough kids where they should be energized just for being able to play hockey right now. And then we have some older guys that is going to have to step up and energize them. I mean, I can get my pom-poms out on the back of the bench there and give them a little cheer, but they got to figure a way to, and that's stuff we'll talk about, whether it's before the game or in between periods, just like, hey, get our energy up. Let's help each other out here. But it's not too big of a concern.
And is conditioning as a whole right now, because a lot of these guys weren't, at camps or whatnot in the off season, is conditioning as a whole right now a bigger factor? Or is it going to be more of a process getting these guys into game shape than normally?
Yeah, it's going to be a process. I think they're in decent shape, but like you just said, game shape is a lot different. I remember, you have your training camps, you worked out all summer, you feel great. And then you get on the ice and you have that first battle drill and you're like, oh, I'm out of shape. It's just a different conditioning. But we've been trying to get some small area games and practices and do some battle stuff. So hopefully that helps them. But excuse me, I think as we go here, they'll be in better game shape after a couple of weeks through here.
Well, thank you, Scott. Greg Boyson is here. Hand is up. Your line is active, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Coach, for taking some time and talking to us today. Roster turnover is nothing new at this level, especially, but with everything that's going on up in Chicago with the injuries and expanded rosters, it's pretty extreme this year. A lot of your key players from last year's team are up in the NHL. Being a guy who's in charge, you and your staff in charge of their development and getting them to this exact spot, do you guys take some pride in seeing these guys up there, not only playing in the NHL, but quite a few of them looking like they're going to be up there to stay?
Yeah, that's what our job is, right? And if they can't call a player up from our team or have a guy called up good enough, ready to go for a taxi squad, then we're not doing our job. So it's always nice to see some of our guys, the Hagels, the Kurashevs, what Bodans and what have you, even like a year before, getting Highmore up there and the Carls. Like when those guys are playing actual NHL games, it's great. Now you have even guys in the taxi squad, which is just as good too, because they've had confidence in those kids that if they need to go up, they're ready to go also. So now we got a fresh batch of guys, and we're going to do our best to have them ready too.
Thank you, Greg. Mario, your line is active.
Hey, Coach. At the beginning of the season here, do you step into the first couple of games with an idea of what your special teams are going to look like, guys that you're going to play on the power play, penalty kill, or is that going to take a couple of games to kind of figure out, what that's going to be like?
Well, we talked about it. We did some power play stuff today, but there's maybe 2 or 3 guys you kind of know that can play the power play, and then the rest is just a crapshoot. Some of them on their scouting reports, they played power play in college or junior or over in Europe or what have you. So right now we're just going to put some power plays together, let them watch them for a couple games and see who actually can play on the power play at this level. And then we'll make adjustments as we go. But if you ask this whole team, I think everybody on this team would want to be a power play guy.
Patrick Williams, your line is active.
Hey, Coach, thanks for doing this. This season, with a little bit maybe less emphasis on winning and the standings and playoffs, does that give you a little bit more freedom to experiment, take some chances that perhaps you wouldn't take in game normally?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to play the same systems as the big club, but there are going to be some times this year where we maybe try some different things, whether it's on the ice in a game or maybe try some stuff in practice that we're not usually used to, or, whether it's a 5D power play, maybe, who knows? Or maybe I'll pull that goalie after he plays a solid game and put a different goalie in for the shootout. Stuff we always joke about and laugh, but this is an opportunity for us to try different things, but it's also an opportunity for these kids to try different positions. Maybe, maybe he's a centerman on paper, but maybe he's going to be a better winger at the NHL level. Who knows? But it does give us that little freedom to experiment a little bit.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Brandon Kane, your line is active. Brandon, you are the last question for head coach Derek King.
Derek, you have Tim Soderlund and Halupa that were on loan in Europe. How do you think that experience benefited them, and what changes have you seen in Soderlund's game from last season to now?
Well, he's I think that helped them. Obviously, playing as much as they can, it's always a benefit. But I think he's learning the right way to play. I think Sody's an energy guy. I love the kid. He can skate. He can shoot. He's not afraid. He won't back down. I think last year we've gotten some problems where he's so used to kind of cheating the game, I always say. And I think this year he realizes he needs to work on playing without the puck a little better. And he's already done that, working on it in practice and what have you. So I've already told him I'm looking for good things from you this year.